Call meeting to order, please. This is the September 16th meeting of the Taxes Election GIS Committee. Do a roll call. Ms. Urick? Here. Ms. Bernal?
Here.
Mr. Slager? Do you know if he's coming or not? Okay. Mr. Blue is not going to be here. Mr. Bailey?
Here.
And Mr. Templeton?
Here.
And I'm Doug Traeger. Okay, we don't have anybody on remote attendance. Can I have a motion to approve the previous minutes, please, by Mr. Templeton, seconded by Joe? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Yes.
Citizen comment. Mr. Treasurer?
Morning. Well, we'll start with public safety numbers as we usually do. So you can see for September, the numbers were up quite a bit. It was up $67,000 from the previous year. And so those numbers look pretty good. I don't know if anybody had a chance to look at the local paper today, but there's a really good article about sales tax in there. It's, I don't know, I think it's in both papers, but I read it in the blue paper today.
Raise it a little bit.
Yeah. You could talk to them about that. But the numbers look pretty good on the public safety, so, and actually I'd recommend reading the article. It's a pretty good article. Tom Collins wrote it. So as far as the collections and distributions, we did make our distribution on the 12th for $74 million. So total that we've distributed so far is $247 million, which the total due is $293. So we're about 84% collected so far. So I did put, I just updated the electronic numbers that we also collected too. So as of right now, we're at a little bit over, well, 11,582 payments of $32 million. So, which is up from last year. So, any questions on that so far? The surplus auction will be coming up here. The last day to submit your bid is on the 19th, and we did have a press release on that. And as far as investments go, as we talked about in the past, we did have, interest rates have kind of gone down a little bit. We did have a certificate come due on the 11th, and we were able to renew that, but the rates are coming a little bit lower. We're able to get 3.85 for 12 months on that one. So that'll be reflected on next month's report. And outside of investments, I think we had a couple resolutions. Okay, well, we can do it next month.
I just got it today.
Okay.
It'll be on next month.
Okay. All right. That's about all I have for this month. So,
Well, Jim, I was going to, is there any word on when they're going to start the upgrade or remodeling project in your office? Have you heard anything?
I think it's going to be in the winter time, just because that'll be our slower time, that or the first part of the year. I'm not exactly sure. But I know they went out for bids on everything that they had to do, so I think Bob's just waiting for some of the numbers to come back.
Okay. Okay, any questions for the treasurer? Okay. Motion to place the treasurer's report on file, please. By Nancy, seconded by Jill. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Motion to pay the bills by Tom, seconded by James. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
morning. Let's try that again. Good morning. Sorry. Oh. So I can't even read this. Okay, let's see here. For August, we were up about 2,000 from August of 2024. It's reflected in the marriage license, redemption fees, record funds, and non-book fees. The POS system that I wanted to get from Fike and Fike, that was going to cost us around $2,000 to upgrade, because we definitely need an upgrade in the office. I was made aware that there's other companies that might be able to do the same thing and not cost the county anything or even littler than the 2,000 that Fike and Fike was going to annually charge us. So I'm in the works of looking into that some more to find out what we can do to keep costs lower as possible. As far as elections, I was made aware that Marseille's precinct, which is called Rutland 3, has moved from the City Hall building that it was previously in to the new City Hall building, which is located at 200 Riverfront Drive. And those updated cards, voter cards, did get mailed out with a bright orange notice to grab attention and let people know, hey, this changed. So we had another one that had changed this year. That was after the mass mailing, so it didn't get included in there. But those went out last week. We sent out surveys to all the previous election judges that we have in the system to see what days of the week work best for their training. We sent out about 600. Right now, I've gotten about 125 or so back that have said yes, they'll work. So I'm hoping to get more by the end of the month, so I can reach out to both parties, say this is where I need this party, this is where I need that party, and so they can work on getting more judges. I'm compiling this information a little sooner than I usually do, so I can give the parties more time. Classes will begin the beginning of February. They will be 4-hour classes with the mock election style again. This gives a hands-on experience for the judges with the new equipment, since we have new poll books, as well as a run-through of the paperwork. I had a lot of good feedback with these classes last time I did these, so we're going to do those again. And the classes are already booked with the jury room, since I was made aware that the treasurer's office would be using the boardroom in the basement. Carrie handed out a packet for you guys, changes in election judge pay over the years. So I want to go back and do a little history because it's the resolution we had. I've been bouncing it back, and I think there's a lot more that needs to be brought to the attention. So I went back to 1988, where there was a resolution where the base pay went from $30 per election to $35 per election. I have all the paperwork to back this up behind it as well, but there's just a cover sheet with the points. Then in September of 1988, there was a resolution that had the base pay from $35 to $50. Also in that, it said, and be it further resolved that the employees in the county clerk's office also receive the amount of the base pay established for the judges of election along with their regular pay. So you guys had asked me before how far back this went as far as my staff getting the same base pay that the judges did. And as far as I can find, it went back to all the way to 1988. In 1992, the resolution had the base pay went from $50 to $65. And then it incorporated some other stuff as far as the $10 for supply judge and a $5 for the ballot return judges. Since then, those the ballot return judges have gone up. But September of '01, there was an ordinance. Base rate went from 65 to 75, and it was also put in there about my employees getting the same base. In February of 2006, there was a resolution. Base pay went from 75 to 85. The portion about the clerk's office staff was also, employees was also in there to get the same as the base. And then in 2006, December of 2006, there was, during the county clerk and election committee meeting, there was discussion in regards to the election judges, the State Board of Elections reimbursement, okay, starting in 2027, or excuse me, 2007. In November of 2007, there was talk in that same committee in regards to Senate Bill 662, a reimbursement for election judges was raised to $45. From my understanding, it was $25 prior to this that the reimbursement went to $45. So it should have only raised the base pay $20 unless there was discussion of raising it the entire $45. At that time, they said there was no money in the state budget, that the county would have to pay it and then get reimbursed retroactively from the state. Then in another one of those committee meetings in August of 2008, it stated that the funding was not cut for election judges and that the $160 for the day is completed, if completed training session for the election day will be paid. So it went from the $85 in 2006 up to what it looks like to be $160 in 2008 without a resolution or ordinance. This is actually would be $130 for base pay because $30 is with class and test. So it wasn't worded that way, but that's what it would be by doing this research. And then in December of 2008, the county was reimbursed from the state $45 for each election judge. So in that time frame, it proves to me that that's when it was raised to the 160 with class and test. Then in 2022, there was an ordinance that stated the compensation went from 160 to 185. So it was the total with class and test that would not have been the base pay. In October of 23, that's the one I did, an ordinance, I pretty much just took off of the 22 one because I didn't see anything recently prior to that to be able to go off of. So I took off that one, and I did the compensation went from 155, which was the base pay in my eyes, to the 175, and that's when the state reimbursed us the $65. We did the $20 increase because the state was reimbursing us $20 more per election judge on election day if we raise the base pay. And then in 2005, March of 2025, this year, there was an ordinance that I did changing the compensation from the 175 to the 185 because what appeared to be what was sent to state was the 160 instead of the 130, which means when I went to the 175, it only raised it the 25, not the 30. It messed it up as far as being able to get reimbursed the full 65 instead of the 60. So that was cleaning that up in March of 2025. So you can see here, there's resolutions, there's ordinances, there's this, there's that. The wording is all different. The only thing I'm finding consistent here is inconsistency. So I wanted to redo the ordinance. From my understanding, it has to be an ordinance, so that it kind of cleaned this all up from now and going forward. So you'll see in the, where did it go? In the ordinance, towards the bottom of the first page, there's a huge section, but that is to explain exactly where we're at with things, so there's no confusion. My understanding is the base pay is going to be 300 without class and test. Am I correct on that? Or was it supposed to be 270 for the base pay and 300 with class and test?
It's supposed to be 300 base pay.
300 base pay. Okay, so that's how I did this resolution. And then I also put in there that they would get the $20 if they come to the training class and complete that, the $10 when they complete the training class test, and that's only paid out once per year for the test. The class can be paid twice a year if there's 2 elections, but the test itself is only once per year. And then they get an additional $10 if they're the one picking up for the precinct. And then they get an additional $10 for both of the judges that bring back. Reading through statutes, I also had to clean that up as well. Mileage is supposed to be paid when they drop off at the end of election night. It's supposed to be paid from them dropping off, and then as well as they're returning, whether it's to their polling place or their home was unclear in the resolution or in the statute. But here, most of them are going to go home afterwards, so they would get it back to their home. So I added all of that in, so it should be completely clear now without question going further. And it does state in here that the state is currently set to reimburse $65 per election judge that works on election day. So, any questions on all of that? I know it's a lot, and I did put all of the copies of everything. I did have one of my staff help me highlight the areas that just to pinpoint where I got my information from.
Questions? I have a couple.
Okay.
Why do you want to put the training classes and the testing rate in here?
So that it's clear.
It doesn't have to be in the ordinance setting the election judge pay, though. And this says that now every time you want to change that, you got to change the ordinance. Whereas before, you could just come before the committee and change the testing pay based upon what was going on.
I don't know when that actually changed. I just know that there was, the base pay, went from the 85 to the 130 without a resolution or ordinance. It never, I don't know when the election judge training classes or the test, where that changed at all. It was never in a ordinance or resolution. It was never, in the committee minutes that I could find. So, I mean, if you want to take that out, we can. But I just thought to be completely clear about everything, then have it in here and then going forward, whether it's myself or another clerk in the future, they can go back and look at it and, okay, this is where it was. And this is going forward. There's a paper trail of everything.
Renata, did you have a question?
Yeah, I think the less is probably more in a ordinance like this. I don't think we need all of that last paragraph.
Okay. It was in on, some of it was in on the May 11th, 1992 resolution.
But that doesn't mean we have to put it back in.
Right, we can take it out.
Mr. Templeton?
I just agree with Joe that at $10, that's probably going to go up sooner or later. Probably sooner than later, because $10 not a lot of money for this. I can see that the clerk, whether you or any successor, would be asking for more money than that. And as Mr. Traeger said, then we have to redo the ordinance again. If it's not in there, I think it can be handled more efficiently if we just have to do that. So I think everything else looks good, but I just would like to see that taken out.
So, starting with the third
Well-
line down where it says election judges that complete a training class and work election day will receive a sum of $200 in addition to $300 base pay set above. So that going down, you want me to take all of that out?
Yes.
Okay.
So it goes back to just the way the original ordinance was worded.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
you're going from 185 to 300, correct?
Yes.
You really should have something that indicates what the other fees are.
Expenses or fees?
As shown in here. Because if it should change, then that should be noted in an ordinance or resolution as well.
The training classes and all that stuff?
Training classes, and supply judge, et cetera. Because that's been part of the issue, what she just mentioned before, as far as researching on the history of it. If nothing else, this is a document that basically, there's your starting point for the next move, whether it's up or down or whatever the case may be.
Well, my point is, I don't think it has to be in this ordinance. The clerk can come up with a resolution just to be passed by the committee if any of this stuff needs to be changed, then you don't have to go back and amend the ordinance.
I honestly don't feel that the election judges are going to be pressuring to up this. I know it's only $10 to pick up and take back, but I don't think they're gonna be pressuring anytime soon with the increase of $115 for base pay. I think they'll be okay, honestly, but.
If you don't do those other costs for the county, then how do you determine that in your office?
If I don't do what other costs.
If you don't determine that in here, then how do you determine that in your office as to how much is going to be paid? If
The
it's not
lovely
coming
words
from,
I don't
if
like to
it's not
say,
coming
but
from
it's
this
always
committee.
been that way. That's.
Well,
I don't like saying
it's
those
always
words.
been
I
that
like
way,
to have
but
it documented.
as I mentioned, this is a document that says where you're going to from here. Now, if it's raised, then that would have to be either done by another ordinance or resolution to signify as such of the other fees that are going to be paid to the election judges.
Right, and I don't see anything.
Otherwise, you have no indication whatsoever
Right,
to pay those extra
Yep.
costs.
that's why I wanted to spell it out this time, because we've been back and forth with this one, and I feel that it should be in there, but as a committee, if you guys,
If the goal of the committee is to change these fees right now, then it should be amended as such. Otherwise, you need a starting point. Basically, you're going from 185 to 300. And are you going from 10 to something else for the class and test or supply judges?
no, that is the same. That is that's.
That's the same as it's noted in here, but the thing of it is, this is a conversation on what should be in here and not. Because if there isn't anything in here as far as the pay to election judges, then basically the assumption is it's zero.
Right.
So in that case, all I'm saying is I think this ordinance should be about the election judge pay. All the rest of this stuff,
Well, it is the pay, it's part of their pay.
it's in addition to the base pay.
And it states that, in addition to the $300
And
base
all
pay.
that other stuff, in addition to base pay, I think should be brought before the committee in a motion by the clerk, and then the committee can deal with that motion. And then you don't have to keep going back and changing this ordinance. I think it's very specific to be in the ordinance. And that's probably the reason why it never was. You can do all this stuff and just bring it to the committee and say, hey, mileage went up, I gotta change the mileage rate.
Well, I don't have the
I can't
mileage
get
rate in
anybody.
here. It's set as the current federal mileage rate, reimbursement rate, is what it states.
Okay, I need to pay people more for training, so I'd like to increase the training to $50 or whatever.
Well, I think that's what Don was saying, is if we think that's gonna happen in the near future, even.
Then just bring it before the committee, and the committee can pass it. It doesn't have to be in this ordinance. That's my thoughts, the committee's.
But if that's the goal of the committee at this point in time, then why not do it right now? And you can always change it by resolution in following subsequent years.
Do you think we should up the training class and the test and the judge pay for dropping off and picking up, or, because we can discuss that now, I can change it now for that stuff, but I really think, I believe that it should be all in here going forward, so that it's not taking hours upon hours to do research of figuring out this and that and everything else, like my staff and I have put in to create what I created for you guys. I've seen the history, going back to 1988.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
But Jen, I'm more concerned just with the $300 for the base pay. I think that's what we all were wanting as a committee. It was nice of you to do, bring us the history, but, that's in the past.
And the only thing in the past is consistently inconsistent.
Well, and.
So I'm trying to make things
Right,
consistent
and
going forward.
And I think it's good. I just don't think we need all of this wording in here, because that's a clerical thing that you can do in your office when you think it needs to be done. The changing of, who picks it up, who drops it off.
Right, but I'd have to come through committee and
Right.
get it approved then.
But then
So
you wouldn't have
if-
to change it all in the ordinance,
but
because
why
it's not
then?
Yeah.
there.
Because say 15 years down the road, somebody wants to change it and they're looking for stuff and now I've got, say I have this not in the ordinance and then they can't find, I don't know when
But
it went
you'll
from
have it somewhere in your office, what you're paying, right?
It's from what we've done before. I cannot find anything through committee or through resolution ordinance to tell me when this ever changed. I
Well,
can't
that's
find
because
it.
it's always been changing maybe, but I think if you have that in your office somewhere, what you have in this paragraph that you do in the office, that's where it needs to be, not in the ordinance. That's just me. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
it's not just in the office, because it has to come back before committee to change those fees. And she's at the committee right now, so if there's desire to change those fees for the training and other added fees on top of the 300, then that should be done today. You can easily change this ordinance and amend it to reflect that.
It doesn't have to be done today. She can bring it to the committee in 2 months and say, hey, I need to change these
I don't think that's gonna happen.
fees.
I don't foresee that happening for probably at least a few years.
But we don't know. Mr. Templeton, Mr. Bailey, any thoughts?
I, pardon me, excuse me. I like the idea of having the flexibility that you would have to do that and not have to make changes here, just changes in front of the committee as opposed to the resolution change. I think it's going to be cumbersome. I think it's going to be something that's going to be complicated. I think it's going to be much simpler for you or anyone else to come into a committee and say, I'd like to raise that to $25 for this, and let the committee make that decision, and it's over and it's done with, and you're set. And you don't have to go and go through all this again and go back and redo the ordinance if we can just do it as being discussed here today.
So
Those are my thoughts.
what's the point in even having an ordinance or resolution for the whole thing then? Like, I mean, I could come to the committee and say, okay, well, we decided we're going to 300 instead of 185.
So
Then,
that's required by board action.
okay, but why isn't it required for board action for the other? Because I mean, it may only be $20 or $10 here or there, but it adds up and it's
It is
quite
not
a,
required by board action. Mr. Bailey?
well, that doesn't make sense. It's transparency.
I think that putting all this inside the ordinance is very, cumbersome. Going forward, I think, having a document, I think somewhere internally that spells it out for your office, I think is a great idea. I think that putting it in this far of an ordinance where it's this wordy is gonna cause more problems down the road and make changes very rigid.
Okay, let me ask this. Is there a motion to approve the ordinance that's presented today and send it to the board?
I'd make a motion to table this and give it a chance for Jennifer to speak with the people on her staff and maybe someone other for the board and kind of revise what this is, as opposed to trying to pass this or not pass it today, but just to pass it down the road, because there is, or
Well, the
am
only
I
reason
wrong,
I
am I
say-
wrong to say that there's an emergency that this has to happen today?
No, the only reason I say that, if the committee doesn't want to forward this to the board, the original resolution we passed last month will go to the board in October, setting the pay for $300. The original one that was passed out of committee. will
The
go
one
to
that's
the board.
unclear.
It's pretty clear to everybody. That's the choice. Do you want to let the original resolution go back to the board, or do you want to not take up this one and bring it back to committee next month?
So, one more question. Besides this last paragraph, is the language all the same as what went to the full board last week?
It's worded so that it was consistent with everything else.
So
and
can
it's-
I get I would like a copy of what we were to vote on
Okay.
last
What changed in the top
On,
part?
yeah, what did change? I guess that's my question.
Well, I know the third whereas, I had it at 13-1 towards the end for the statute, because that's what was in 2022, and it was supposed to be 13-2. The wording in number 4, I put in, was said base pay fixed at 185 instead of the compensation that it said before.
Make copies of it.
No, thank you. They all
Let
have
me
it.
see here.
I mean, they're minor changes, very minor.
There's that, and then I think I made the number 3 to put in the $65. And then I put in the further resolved with my employees being on there.
What was that last one,
The
Jen?
last part says, and be it further resolved that the employees in the county clerk's office also receive the amount of base pay established for the election judges along with their regular pay.
And that was not in the one that we had at the last full board.
I do not believe so.
But should that be in this ordinance about the employees?
It was.
Isn't this
It
about-
was in 88, it was in 2001, it was in 2006. So it's been that way until, I don't know why the whole ordinance changed in 22. It looks like it was created from scratch in 22 versus looking at the ones prior to that. And so no, it wasn't put in there at that time, but my
So that
employees-
was 3 years ago, in 22. Who was,
It wasn't me. It was
it
prior to
was
me.
Lori?
And then in 23, when I did the one to change it to the 175, I just went off of hers. And then when I did it in 25, I just went off of hers. And with this situation, I went and did way more research going back to the 1988. So I could figure out, okay, this just doesn't make complete sense to me when my staff are saying that they've been paid the same amount. When the base pay raised to the 130 from the $85, there was no ordinance or resolution to raise that. So that was done, I don't know how, it was done through a committee, just from the notes that I read and you have in front of you. It was basically, the clerk at the time had stated, the state is gonna reimburse now $45, so it was raised $45 from the 85 to the 130. And so there was no, at that time, my staff were continuing getting the $85, just like they had. Their pay never went up for election day, their extra, until 24, I believe it was, 24 or 25, they went to 100. Because now the $100 is in the union contract, so that they would get some kind of raise.
And they get time and a half for overtime,
Yes,
correct?
they do.
Have you had Mr. Adams look at this ordinance at all?
I've had Pat look at the ordinance.
Okay, has he looked at this last one?
He's looked at every one I've given you guys.
You want to table this until next month, or what do you want to do, committee? I don't see the purpose of tabling it myself, but if you want to, that's fine.
I don't know what you want me to talk with my staff, but I've already talked to my staff to find out details and such that has happened prior to me. They have helped me find all of this going back to 1988. I've discussed it with my supervisors in the office, so I don't know what more to go back and talk to.
So
my
how
staff.
much are your employees getting now?
Right now, they get 100 per election, plus their pay.
And what would that total then, with their pay, the $100 and their time and a half?
Oh, I don't know, it's different for every employee. No employee has the same rate of pay right now. And that's all worked into my budget.
Well, they don't have the same pay rate?
No,
Oh, okay.
Well, probably depending on
how long they've been here.
how long they've
yeah.
been there, right? Yeah.
What's the minimum? Can you say that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
1750, 18, yeah, something like that is my minimum, yeah,
Starting is 17.
yes. And then I have employees that have been here several years. Yeah. And I understand you guys are just looking at the pay amount of it, but what goes on in the office, and I understand it's in their job duties, but what goes on and what they put their bodies through and emotionally, physically, mentally, all of us in the office. I'm not asking for a raise for me, I'm asking for them, because what they go through. Stop in the office sometime during the election and see. The best time to stop and see what's going on, how crazy it can be, is between 5 and 6 a.m. When the phones won't stop. I'm hoping and praying that these new poll books help with that, because they can message us, instead of all the phone calls, they can message us and we can message them back real quick, right on that poll pad.
So can they call you though if they need help?
Yes, absolutely. Oh, yeah, the phone line will still be open. Absolutely, yeah. I wouldn't take that away, because some people don't know how to message on the poll pads.
Well,
So
plus
their
sometimes
pay-
You'd have to type in so much time, it would just take you so much longer.
Sometimes,
So their pay is set at $100 for the contract,
yes.
and you would give them an extra $300.
I
addition
would
to
give
that.
them an extra $200, so it's set, so they're getting the same.
So on the next contract, I'm sure the union would say, well, you've already established that you're gonna give them that, so we'll put that in the contract too. I mean, that's what I would do. Anyway, committee,
Then you'll have to consider the ordinance and see where you're gonna go to from there. If you put the 300 in the contract, now you're gonna pay them another 300?
No.
Well,
No, I
that's-
love my employees, but no.
That's what the ordinance says.
It says they would get paid the same, the base pay,
That's correct.
but it doesn't
If
mean they're
it's,
gonna
if
get
it's
paid
put in,
twice.
if it's put in the contract, or 100's in the contract, then they're getting the 100 plus the 300. If they put in the contract that it's 300, they'll get the other 300, because that's what's in the ordinance.
Okay, well then, let's put this one at 200 then, so they get the 200 and the 100 from, and then in
Mr.
27,
Templeton?
when we have to do the contract with union again, then we'll change it, we'll take it out. But I just think it would be fair for my employees.
I don't think anybody's trying to make it not fair for your employees. I think we just want to make it so it's fair for everybody involved. I'm not opposed to it, but I think right now we're beating it to death and we're not getting anywhere. The comments just made by the chairman about the next contract and things, that's got to be taken into consideration when we're doing this, or otherwise, yes, in fact, there's going to be a big fight over the contract and then about how much we're going to be paying them. I have no problem with the extra money. I just think the language, which is always going to be, the devil being in the details, Jen, it's always going to be a problem like this. I've been through it over the years, and it's not something I'm not used to. I think we just have to change things a little bit and maybe get some more legal opinion on it as to how it can fit everybody's needs. And once we do that, I think you're going to see that it's going to be a lot easier sailing here. That's my opinion.
Well, if we can reword it for the elections in 26 and 27, and then December 1 of 27 starts the new contract, and just have it in this ordinance for those 2 years, and then it's done, and then the new contract can have it, and then we won't have to worry about it anymore. Because it'll be set in the
Ms.
new
Yuri.
contract, and they won't.
I don't even know if this is valid.
Put your mic on.
I don't know if this is valid, but could you do like an Excel spreadsheet to show the different pays for the time, so it's easy for people to track it, and it's not really in the ordinance? I don't know if you can do that.
I don't know the relevance of that, though. I'm not understanding.
Because you
I
were
guess.
saying you weren't sure what it was in the past. And then you would have, oh, they got, this certain amount, and.
Well, they got $85 per election, no
Right.
matter what their pay was through the county. They got their time and a half,
Right.
plus they got the $85. And that went all the way through until just recently, because when the base pay went from 85 to the 130, that's why I did the homework here. Okay, from somewhere in 2007, 2008, somewhere in that time frame, it went from 85 to 130 for the election judges. There was nothing done about the employees in the office at that time to raise it. So since then, and since prior to then, in 2006, when it went to $85 for the base pay, the employees in my office have been getting $85. So they've been getting the base pay prior for all these years. So it's regardless of what they make on their hourly wage and their time and a half, that's irrelevant. They all got the same. And so when it was raised just recently, I want to say maybe it was in the last contract, and it started in this last April election, is when it went to 100 so that they got some kind of raise. Because when I came in to the committee in 23, I think it was April, somewhere around then, and I had asked for my employees to get the base pay. It was shot down at that point in time. There was 2 people that voted yes and 4 people that voted no to it.
When did the employees start and get time and a half for working that day?
Well, that's federal. There's nothing
That'd
we
be
can
fun,
do.
yeah.
There's nothing we can do about time and a half. Yeah.
Well, I know that. I just wondered if there was a time when that happened.
I think what
Are they all-
throws this whole thing into a different perspective is it's union. And there's a contract that has to be followed until the next negotiating
Yeah.
process. So I don't think we can do anything about it until that contract comes up for negotiations again.
Okay. Well, I mean, we could put something in with the 200 versus the. If
I
we're
don't
raising
think
it
we
to
should put, I
No.
don't think we should change, I think we should just take that language out and vote on the $300 for the election judges right now.
And then in 27, when the new contract starts,
Well, then we can think
it
about
would-
that then, but you know, that union contract has to be considered.
right.
If they weren't union, we could handle it ourselves, but with it being union,
Most of my employees, there are 4 employees that are non-union in my office. So, but we treat them the same. Right. If the union employees get paid something, then the non-union get as well.
So that's based, excuse me, so that's based upon the contract, so really, you can't change that from what's in the contract.
Then we'll wait, we'll leave it how it is, and then in 27, then I'll ask the union to put the language in that they get the base pay. Or
Committee?
an MOU.
We've
Yeah,
talked
there's-
about this enough. What's the committee want to do? You want to table it,
Well-
Mr. Templeton?
Well, if we table it, that'll give us the extra time to discuss it more, or, as we just discussed, is there a point in doing it outside the contract? If the point is we really can't do it outside the contract or shouldn't do it outside the contract, it's probably a moot point up until contract times and contract discussions. And then I completely agree, let's get it in the contract and there's no discussion. It's in the contract and that's how that they will be paid. They'll be compensated appropriately contractually. And that way you don't have to worry about this. You got a contract that covers all
I
of your
agree.
people. And if you treat your non-unions the same as your union people, then that will cover everyone. And there'll be no further discussions. If anyone from the board says something, you can hand them the contract and say, here's what it is. We've negotiated it, we've discussed it, and we've passed it, and we got a contract.
Gotcha. Okay, well, yeah, I
So
can
is
take
your
that
motion
out.
to table?
Yes.
But
Is there a
what are we tabling for? I'm not understanding, like, so we'll take that out. That's not a problem of taking that part out, but then, like, what are we
Well,
tabling for?
with that
So I'm
being said,
clear.
rethinking it, I guess if we're not going to take action on it, we don't need to table it. So,
If we're not going to take action on it, we don't need to table it.
yes, if that's what we're going to do and that's what the
And,
committee,
and the resolution from last month will go to the full board meeting.
apparently, yes.
Is that the feeling of the committee?
With all due respect, there was no motion on the floor to take this forward. Am I correct?
Not yet. He had a motion to table, but,
Motion
No,
to table,
that-
but you asked, if I'm not mistaken, for a motion to approve this and move it to the full board.
No, if we take no action, the original motion that we passed in May will go to the next board agenda.
No, but what I'm saying is you asked for a motion to approve this or forward it to the full board,
No, I
but
didn't.
there was no motion.
No, I didn't ask that.
Oh, I thought you
Yeah.
did.
No. I asked if the committee wanted to do that, and then we discussed it for another 15 minutes.
During that discussion, I brought up the tabling, which,
Yeah.
no, there was no motion before that. The motion that I made up was to table it, which doesn't
So
seem
the
to be
original
appropriate at
motion
this
that
point in
we
time, so I'll
passed in-
rescind that.
The original motion that we passed in August will go back to the board without any of the language on the training or any of the rest of that stuff, or that last sentence. It'll be solely on the compensation for the election judges. It's okay with everybody?
And we don't need a motion to send it back.
No.
That'll just automatically go back if we take no action.
Yes. It's been passed out of committee, and it needs to be on the next board agenda.
That
Okay.
one would need to get updated with the statute, though. At least get updated with the statute.
We could do that. Scribner's there.
Okay,
Do that during the meeting.
during the board meeting?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll have all those notes for you then.
Anything else on that? Anything else, Madam Clerk?
I do have a little bit here. Just another reminder that the petition circulation for the March 17th, 2026 election began on August 5th. The forms are available in the county clerk's office. I'm still hearing word that people didn't know that they were available in the clerk's office, so I just want to put it out there again, that they are available. They are available on our website. If somebody asks for specific form numbers, we will mail them to them. If they email and say, hey, can I have form number this? We will email or paper mail depending on what they want. But we were not just going to mail, hey, I'm running for this seat. I want the packet because I'm not having that liability. As far as taxes, we.
So, wait a minute.
What?
Excuse me. I sent you an email on something to do with that. First of all, I think we could have a disclaimer there, but then I sent you another one from Will County about a parent conformity statement that a lot of the clerks.
I haven't had time to look into that yet.
I also sent it to Mr. Adams. It seemed like something we should do to protect ourselves a little bit in that area.
I'll look into that for next month. But yeah, I did get the email. I just haven't had time. I've been super busy. Taxes, we are receiving the budgets and the appropriations right now. The new TIF and the amended TIF have been entered, and then levies will be starting to come in soon. We've received a couple of them, I do believe, at this point. The ethics program, the new ethics program is still being processed. There was a demonstration that was done, and my staff and I, we made a few changes to that, specific to our county, that would be helpful. We're scheduled for another demonstration by mid-October, and it really looks amazing, and will make the whole process of the statement of economic interest easier and, more importantly, more efficient in the office. So that's all I got.
But when do we do most of the training for election judges? Is that all done at night, or do we do it here, or do we go out to various places, or?
I'm doing them all here again in the jury room. They will be, there's certain dates, not every day, but they'll be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, from the beginning of February through right before the election, the week before the election. And then I'm going to do the evening classes, which will be 4 to 8 o'clock. Those will be on Thursday nights, but like I said, not every night. They have to sign up for a class because the classes max out at 30 people. Because we're doing 6 precincts with 5 judges in each precinct, as a mock election style like we did before. So everybody's getting the hands-on. It's much easier. It's questions are easier to be answered, and people get more in-depth doing it this way, from my feedback I've gotten from the last one I did this way.
So most of them are held during the day?
Most of them are during the day, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Saturday mornings, we were gonna have, I think there's 4 of them on the schedule for Saturdays, and then there's, I think, 4 Thursday nights as well. So
Okay.
evening ones.
Okay, thank you. Anything else for the clerk? Okay, a motion to place the county clerk Report on file by Nancy, seconded by Jill. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Motion to pay the county clerk's bills by Mr. Templeton, seconded by Mr. Bailey. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Good morning, Madam Recorder. Thank you.
Hello.
Recorders, we've had, or I had a busy month.
Okay. Hello again. Okay, I've had a busy month. Of course, I went to Washington State for PRIA. It was a great conference. We were able to tour the Capitol, go through the archives, had some good discussions with some of the other county recorders. That's a hard term to use when we talk about other states because other states do things so different than what we do in Illinois. And then also just got back from Springfield on Friday for IACR conference. We had a great attendance there and a lot of good topics for both the clerk's office and the recorder's office. We've got some legislation that we're working on in both departments that I can kind of go into for the recorder's office a little bit later.
What do you do at the national convention?
What do we do? Go through some of the things that are affecting the recorder's offices for some of it, a lot of it is legislation that maybe it's already been implemented in other states that know is coming here. And then I'm also to give input as to things that are going on in Illinois. We had 4 counties that sent representatives from Illinois. We're always working on getting more counties to attend. PREA is a great organization for recorders. All they work on is property records. And in fact, I am on a committee for property records for education, and we're presently in the process of working on some kind of training and certification for new recorders coming in. So the conference is a wealth of information, and also by belonging to that organization, they have monthly webinars and sessions that are free that you can go in and learn, and they have a great output for best practices for things that we all work on when we're recording and indexing our documents.
Okay, thank you.
So, my operating statements. First page for the document counts. So far from December 1st through August 30th, we've recorded 10,583 documents. That is down a little bit from last year at the same time, end of August. For the month of August, we recorded 1,349 documents. We have to look at what our office staff does completely for the month. We'd also have to kind of look at our back indexing. That is the old documents that have already been scanned, but the girls index when they're not working on the daily numbers. And for the month of August, they worked on 3,984. So for a total of the daily walk-ins plus the index, you know, we're talking about 5,000 documents that the girls have worked on.
Any questions on any of those documents or any of the figures on that sheet? And the next sheet is my operating statement for the month. So for the general fund, we brought in $147,494.50. For the equipment fund, $46,424.22. And for GIS, $61,234 we brought in. There's a definite increase in all three of these accounts. A lot of that being due to, remember, we did have an increase in our fees. So remember, May 9th of this year, we had an ordinance that took effect with our predictable fees. We had a cost study that followed that up that showed that income. Any questions on any of the revenue coming in? So the expenses for the month, for the general fund, $78,805.78. And for the equipment fund, $55,004.78. So for the month, we had a total expenses of $133,810.56 and revenue in $255,152.72. Any questions on any of those figures, amounts? Then the next sheet is the comparison to where our budget is at. For the general fund, we're at 79% of our budget. For the equipment fund, we're at 50% of what we budgeted. And for GIS, we're at 82% of what we budgeted. Expenses, comparing to the budget, we've used 83%. And for, that was for the general fund. For the equipment fund, 68%. Any questions on any of those? Last sheet then is just the dashboard that we put out there for the public and for your use. Any
Questions?
So the legislation I just wanted to bring up that we have, that we're involved with the recorder's office. And our association is working very hard. By statute, in the present statute we have, the recorder's office can, if they wish, have a fraud review and referral process. There are a couple counties that have implemented that and have for a long time, okay? There is legislation presently, and they are very confident that in veto session, it will get passed. If that happens, that is going to put a huge workload on our office. We, right now by statute, when documents come in, our staff reviews that document to make sure it meets our standards. And if it does, we record it. That is by law, that's what we do. If this program is implemented, we're going to have to be watching for things that we feel would be fraudulent in some of our deeds. Our office is not trained to do that. We would have to have certain employees set up to be able to watch this. I am going to have to go to the state's attorney's office and discuss what's our plan. I have been able to get up and to get an ordinance from another county that has had this referral process in place for many years, but it's huge. The It has not passed yet, but they're very confident that it is going to. And if it passes the way it's written right now, they want it effective January 1st, which is it's just practically impossible for those of us that have already not set up a program and done this, to have this effective January 1st is just, it's insane. We couldn't do it. You have to have notices, you have to have the proper setup, we have to have a process that we go through for this. So the legislative committee, we are working that when we go into veto session, we're going to try and get this extended out at least another year. So we have time to work on this process.
Karen, would this be one employee to take care of all of that daily, or is it?
Well, that's what we would have to do. We've got to have discussions. We've got to figure out what, how we go about this. I've been in office since 2016, and before that, I don't know. I know we've had documents that come in that we've been suspicious of. But we've never had one where we've had to go forward. I think I can say this out of executive, we do have a case at the moment. Okay? So, but it's going through the state's attorney's office. So we know it's coming. More of them. It's going to happen. It's just going to be, what's going to be our role in the recorder's office?
And will the training be provided for whoever?
Oh, yes. Oh, it would have to be, yeah.
By who, though? Who will provide that training? The state?
Well, that's what has to be done in discussions. I have a background in searching and all that stuff, and doing that. I could do that. I could train that, but you would want to do, in a title company, you have attorneys, you have underwriters that do all that stuff. So it's not a matter of just a document coming in and saying, oh, I feel funny about this document. There's a process.
What kind of fraud do you have to detect?
Someone deeding a property that they don't belong to them, to someone else.
So like if somebody finds it and they find an individual person and they try to take a loan out on that, like we were discussing
Well, they
before?
can take somebody's, a lot of, throughout the United States, it happens. There's various examples. One example would be maybe someone sees a property that a person only lives there half a year. They're an elderly, maybe they're elderly, they live out of state. Someone prepares a fraudulent deed and sells their property. So maybe the people are gone 3 or 4 months out of the year. When they come home, someone's living in their house.
Oh,
Because it's been sold. And lots of times they do it for homes that don't have mortgages on it, because then they get a mortgage, they get the money. There's lots of things. It takes a lot of players sometimes, but the players are out there. I will say, in our office, we have started to index notaries, so that our software provider is putting together a software program that will eventually be available to notaries, so they can go online and see all documents that have come through our office and been filed with their notary. So that if someone fraudulently used a notary, used their name as a notary, they would be alerted to it. That's one thing our office has started doing. We've been doing that about 2 months now.
thank you.
There's ways we can help to prevent this. It's hard because our role has never been to verify who owns the property. So when someone brings a document to our office and we file it, we don't really know if that's the true owner. But with this legislation coming through, we're going to have to be more alert and be paying attention to that. And how we go about that is yet to be determined.
Could they possibly put like the actual person that lives there, they don't plan on doing anything, could they put like a freeze on for like a credit card where you put a freeze on it and they have to be notified before that happens? Or would that be extremely difficult?
That's been asked.
Okay.
We presently are working on another software program. I don't know, maybe some of you know, have you heard of Daniel's Law? That's another legislation that is presently out there and we are presently working on. That legislation, right now, there's already statute out there that is, if a judge comes to me and fills out the form, they can say, I want my information redacted, because he's a judge. There's legislation out there that is wanting to expand that list. They want to offer it to all, whoever wants it, policemen, whatever. If you feel that you are threatened and you're in a domestic case, you can go to a judge, they can fill it out, bring it to me, and we will redact it. But that becomes, where does it stop? You can't redact everybody's information. So we're working on that. And along the lines what you were asking is kind of along the same things. We can't just have everybody walking in and say, oh, I want my information froze or redacted.
But wouldn't that be a simple solution?
Well, you'd have all kinds of, I mean, what's the point of having public records? I mean, if you're going to start doing that.
I think somebody couldn't do fraud as easy, though.
But I will say, in the current situation we have going on with the fraud, the person did ask us if we could watch their properties on a daily basis. We can't do that, okay? We're busy, we're recording documents. We have a property fraud alert program
Right.
that people can sign up for and they'll get notice. The concern with that is you're getting notice after it's done.
Right.
And we understand that. But we can't start watching everybody's properties for them to see if something is going to come through.
But
So-
instead of watching it, though, you could have a freeze and they would have to contact you to unfreeze it.
But we have no way of doing that.
Okay, I didn't know.
And
Okay,
once you
thank
would start that process, they'd be lined up all over.
Okay, thank you.
So we're working on it. The Daniels Law legislation is still out there. In fact, when I was at PREA, we had some extensive conversations on that because that's already been implemented in several states. Illinois is working on our legislation, so it's coming, and we know that. And it has been coming for a couple of years. So-
Quick question. So in essence, that's a fraud detection system within the county itself then?
Would what? Say that again, Don.
With that legislation, so that basically, they're looking for the recorder's office to detect fraud.
Yeah, they are. They're looking for us to implement a review and referral process.
So then my question is, what's the liability going to come upon the county?
Well, that's the concern.
Yeah.
I mean, I have that concern now when judges come to me and want their information redacted. And I ask them, tell me what you want redacted. Because if they don't tell me, and my office goes in and redacts what they think should be redacted, we miss something, we're responsible. Or if after they've told me to redact stuff, they record documents that we're not paying attention to. You know, the girls are not looking for certain names every day that come through. Some of the office staff does not realize some of the judges' names that I already have that are redacted. We don't publicize that. So, yeah, it's a liability for us. We're working on it. The other legislation that's going through in the recorder's office that we are against is right now, when you transfer property, there's a real estate transfer tax. There's legislation out there, they want to double that. And when they double it, it's going to Chicago for their CTA system. We are fighting it. We're hoping we can. See what happens. But that would be another increase to our fees if that happens too.
When is that supposed to happen? If it does- or
Well,
we
the
don't know?
legislation is out there. I'm
Okay.
sure it'll be talked about in Vado session in October.
Okay.
And, you know, if it gets knocked down then, I'm sure it'll come back next year. So, they're pushing real hard for that one. They're pushing very hard for both of those legislations.
And is that where it won't affect the people in Chicago? I think I've heard, is that true?
Well, the whole state would be paying help to fund for their CTA. Right now, we're trying to get it where it would just be for Chicago and the collar cities, but they're wanting to expand it out for all of Illinois.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns for the recorder? Okay, motion to accept the recorder's report and place on file by Ms. Urich, seconded by Ms. Brunel. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Motion to pay the bills for the recorder, Mr. Templeton, seconded by Mr. Bailey. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. All right, Colin, you're up, I guess.
Morning, everybody. Is this on?
No, I don't think it is on.
There you go. Okay.
There's a little button that used to be up there. There's a little button that used to be up there, the round one. Didn't work. Go ahead, I'm
All
sorry.
right. So, good morning, everybody. So we are working on some upgrades. So the first one we helped assist with is the land use department, the ArcGIS Pro. A lot of new computers are being purchased right now due to kind of end of life of Windows 10, if you've heard about that. So a lot of computers are being swapped out, and anything with GIS on it, we're assisting with that. So we assisted with land use. And then one in the supervisor assessment's office, we're assisting with a couple more today in the supervisor assessment's office as well. The county clerk office maps, I talked last time about the issues with the boundary for the municipal boundaries, corporate boundaries. I believe the best path forward would be to take the two layers, try to combine them together to make a better layer, but not doing all the underlying research that would take to try to make that even more perfect. So you can imagine I have two data sources that I know are not exactly right, but if I take them together, I can make them better. So that would be the plan, but not go in and say, okay, if there's a question upon this specific property, to go through and actually do the research to find the annexation to find out that that's correct. Does that make sense? Is a good way to move forward, because what you'd have to do is go and find all those annexation documents, and then it becomes a kind of a research challenge over time. So I think the best path forward is to do what I said, is just try to take the two pieces of information, combine them together, and then that'll take care of the county clerk's maps. We can proceed forward with that project, and then the large printed maps as well, because they're both using that layers, and then we can get that done, and then another future project maybe to make that layer better over time. So that's what we're recommending as the path forward. The other thing we're working on is the drainage districts for farmland. So that's done. We finished the drainage calculations. And then right now we're working on talking to PAMS about getting that data put into their system. We'll have a conversation with them today about how the best way to basically transfer that data into PAMS. And then if there's other, ancillary information that's needed from that, we'll support that as well. So could be maps that come out of that, could be other information that may be needed going forward. So we would work on that as the next step. I think that process really streamlined what was being done before. And I think it's been a really good outcome, so.
So who's going to use that?
Well, it's done for farmland assessment, so it's brought into PAMS, that's the primary focus of it. But
So all the drainage districts in the county, they'll be able to use this to do,
okay, so let me try to back up a little bit and try to answer your question at the same time. Okay, so what we were doing was specifically for farmland assessment. The way that farmland is assessed in Illinois is by using the parcel, the soil type, and the land use. So basically, you combine those pieces of information together to figure out what the assessment of the parcel is, the farm parcel. If they pay into a drainage district, then their farmland assessment is further reduced because they're in that drainage district.
Oh, so that's what this was for?
This is the
Okay,
primary purpose of this project.
okay,
There's also a flood aspect to that as well. If they're in a flood zone or not if they're in a flood zone, if they're in an area that floods regularly, then they can also get a further debasement for farmland as well.
Okay.
So basically, reduction in their tax bill.
okay.
So that's why we did this project. It was for farmland. There's parcels that are not assessed as farmland that are in drainage districts. So those, were brought through the process, but we didn't run calculations on those because they're not assessed as farmland.
But do you now have drainage district maps
Yeah, so we can
that the
take
drainage
information we
districts
have
could
now,
use and,
right, we have information that we have now that we can take and produce drainage maps from them.
okay,
The challenge always is gonna be, a couple things with drainage district, is we're only looking at the parcels as a whole as a drainage district. So the parcel may not fully participate in a drainage district, it may only be part of the drainage district. For this, we're not concerning ourselves with that.
yeah,
And then also a parcel can be in multiple drainage districts. So there's parcels in the county that are in 3 drainage districts.
yeah.
So it's kind of challenging, like how do you represent that on a map, right? So there's ways to do that, but that's some of the things that we kind of run into when we take those next steps and produce maps. We need to figure out, how we solve those challenges.
Okay.
So, that all make sense?
Oh, no.
I am sorry it is complicated. I'm doing my best.
Can you just at least explain to me exactly what is a drainage district? Is it where it floods? Or
It
is
is.
there where it drains?
It's a taxing district.
For what, though? What are we taxing? Water?
They're political, they're political organizations, drainage districts. We appoint people to drainage districts and everything. Yeah. And I don't know what they do besides that. They meet once a year and I guess determine where it's gonna drain or something.
Right, I think they
No,
help with
Mr. Chairman has a much better handle on that.
Basically, they're districts that are set up concerning the parcels that feed into drainage tiles, drainage ditches, and things of that nature. And there are different ones, well, all over the state or whatever, but they are a taxing body. Okay? And that's the reason for the appointments to those, is because they can tax those parcels based upon the needs, the way I understand it anyway, the needs of the farmers in the drainage district. Basically where the water is going to flow.
That's our
Okay.
ultimate goal, isn't it, Mr. Chairman?
That's right,
To
yeah.
determine-
Yeah, if there are areas that are prone to flood, their farmers will take a look at it and see how they can put tile in and go to, could be a creek, could be a drainage district, so that basically it drains better so that they improve their crop production.
But does it flood somebody else's property if they're?
Well, that's,
That's the next
that's,
drainage
they
district.
take a look at that as well. That's true, and that's why the commissioners on it, they take a look at that and see how they can avoid that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for the purpose of this project, it's state statute that has to be as part of the farmland assessment if they exist. So that's why we're doing this project. So that's great information, thank you. I didn't really have a lot of background on this, on why they're there. I just know that we have to do this for farmland assessment.
So where are our maps? I mean,
Once we get this map, this corporate boundary, we'll produce those maps with that new corporate boundary there, so it's
okay.
more accurate.
So is this gonna be by Christmas or?
No, I'll bring another map next month.
Oh, great.
So,
Okay.
yes.
They can include different townships. I can't think of the names right offhand that we do.
Yeah, there's
But
multiple, there's
basically,
like
are
Adams Earl is one, I
multi-townships,
think.
well, you can't really see it on these maps and that, but basically, it's the topography of the soils and everything and where that water is going to flow. It eventually makes it to the Fox River or Illinois or and the goal is, I mean, if you would have taken a look back in 1800s and that, they didn't exist. But there were farmers that basically, when they took a look at land, they tried to figure out the optimal place where they wouldn't necessarily get flooded that often, and they'd clear that land and farm it. And it's become, much more sophisticated nowadays.
Yeah, I think Adams Earl is one, Wallace Waltham is
Yeah.
another one.
Yeah.
I think it's some of the ones that come to my mind.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
and then one last thing.
Oh.
ArcGIS Pro conversion project, we are starting to plan that out. So that's gonna be the maintenance. Parcel maintenance is gonna switch to a different platform coming up, probably starting next month. There's a downtime in the supervisor assessment's office where they're not doing as much, processing of documents. They kind of pause, so we're gonna go ahead and run that conversion during that time. So there'll be a bunch of kind of impacts of that, and we'll be going through that. It'll be kind of a larger project. One thing I'll mention real quick, Karen, there is a possibility as part of that project, one of the capabilities that has is to automate deed recon and try to map it out. So what you were talking about could have an ancillary benefit there on being able to do that. So we've not really tested that. It's brand new functionality, but could be a way to basically, what it's doing is it's using OCR to try to take a document, read through it, and smartly figure out how to map that document onto the screen. So you imagine you have a deed that comes in that has a legal description on it. The software would go through and try to pick up what it thinks is the legal description and try to map it out for you.
So that's something when we start having our discussions, we need to be in discussions with you.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know how well that's worked. It's really brand new, so, it might work sometimes, not all the time, but, if we're talking about new deeds, that's the best case scenario, right? Because those are modern documents, probably typed on a computer, so that would help, hopefully have the best possibility, but it could be a way to use technology that already existing to try to help solve a problem.
The problem with all of that is, and people come into our office all the time, and they think that the very last deed on file is going to show who's entitled. But that's not always the case, because sometimes that last deed on file is only a fourth of the interest. And without doing a full search and having that examined by someone who knows how to examine those properties, is how you determine who owns that property. So, and I've instructed the girls in my office, when someone comes in and they say, well, I need the deed to my property, you say, I can help you review the online, but I've instructed them, do not go to the system and pull the last deed, because that may not be the only deed that's involved.
Right. Could be another tool in the tool belt to help, but probably not something that's gonna just solve the problem, right? So, okay. Any other questions I can answer?
Thanks, Colin.
Okay, thank you.
Motion to place the GIS report on file, please. By Mr. Bailey, seconded by Mr. Templeton. All in favor? Motion to pay the bills for GIS. A lot of them. Ms. Bernal, seconded by Ms. Burich. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Yes, ma'am. Oh, it looks like.
Good morning. First of all, I want to thank Colin for his work on the Drainage District project, because before, this was done manually by Stephanie, and this took her probably a month to a month and a half to complete. And with his help, it's pulled in from Fike and Fike through the county clerk's office, and he was able to get those calculations, and now we're working with our CAMA system to get that put into our system. So it's a huge time saver. Our current certificate of error count is 757. We have 55 board of review appeals turned in. Compared to the previous 3 years, these figures are about the same, so we're right on track. We'll be completing all entry by October 1st of 2025. I've already started running the reports to clean up our records before we apply the township multipliers.
Well, now entry for what, Abby?
We have entry at particular levels. So right now, we're at the supervisor of assessments level, and we will finish our office entries. So anything that commercial industrial has, our drainage district, any other changes that need to come in from the assessors and things like that, we'll do that now. And then we have a cutoff point. That's all I have.
Questions? All right. Motion to approve the assessment officer report, please, by Ms. Bernal, seconded by Ms. Yurich. All in favor?
Aye.
And motion to pay the assessment officer's bills by Mr. Bailey, seconded by Mr. Templeton. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, thanks, Abby. Anything else for discussion? The good of the effort? Okay, motion to adjourn by Mr. Templeton, second by Ms. Bernal. All in favor?
Aye.
We are opposed. Thank you very much.